I've been doing videos now for like almost 8 years. And for most of this time, I had almost no viewers, like no external validation at all. But I couldn't not do it. At some point, you have this idea you have to become an adult, have a real job. And then there's very little room for creativity in a normal 9-to-5 job. Finding what you want to do is sometimes the hardest part. And then I think you have to try a ton of things. Do you think you have to be miserable to actually dare to do it?
Yeah, I think that quote, like, the pain of staying the same needs to be greater than the pain of change.
I lost my backbone. Somewhere in Stockholm.
Hey allihopa, and welcome to Somewhere in Stockholm, a podcast production by Experience Stockholm. I'm Frankie, your host, and I'm thrilled to bring you new voices, places, faces, and spaces from Stockholm that you should probably know about, but maybe you haven't heard in another platform before. We're very thrilled today to welcome Andres Acevedo to the podcast. And Andres, in case you don't know, he combines his legal background with a passion for film, design, and storytelling, mostly through his YouTube channel, The Market Exit. He produces video essays and short documentaries that explore themes like social justice, economics, power, and inequality. Today's focus isn't going to be so much on his legal background, even though I think it's somewhat pertinent that he has a law degree. And yet he mostly is focusing on storytelling through video. So I want to go a little bit deeper into the creative process with Andres and also see how he's kind of capturing the society we live in through film. So welcome. I hope now that we're like a little bit warmed up into the conversation, hope you're ready to get started here. So yeah, I wanted to kind of hear a little bit more about what led you to start the YouTube channel in the first place, because I think a lot of people out there who are creative, they may not find the outlet or the courage. People talk a lot about courage, putting yourself out there to press publish. So what made you start this YouTube channel? What was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, so yes, I guess I've always had, even as a teenager and growing up, I've had this urge to create stuff, I've always installed Photoshop on my computer, played around with that, like done a little bit of video, tried to do a little bit of music. But then at some point, you have this idea you have to become an adult, have a real job, and then you get sort of sucked up into that. And then there's very little room for creativity in a normal 9-to-5 job. So for the longest time when I was studying law and also when I was working as a lawyer, I didn't really have that creative outlet. But then at some point during my law career, I realized that I probably don't want to do law my whole life. So what I did then was that I quit my job at a big law firm and I started my own law firm. And that gave me a lot of time, free time, because I had some work to do, which was great, but I also had some time off. So then I could, take courses in videography, and I got to like rediscover all of these interests that I had as a teenager, and I realized this is so much fun. I have to lean into this. I have to do this more. And then I was thinking, okay, the low-hanging fruit was to sort of combine that interest with my legal background.
Okay.
So I started with making like these nerdy related videos about antitrust, and then I just published them on YouTube. So it's like in the beginning, I was also pretty certain that no one would watch them. So it was very like the stakes were low. Maybe that's a good idea to like keep the stakes low. I mean, if you put stuff out there, it's not like it's going to get viral immediately. You can be kind of certain that your first draft will probably stay within your close circle of friends and family. So I definitely think that it's an important first step, though, like to actually publish something.
Do you feel that the fact that maybe you didn't have that creative outlet during your law career, was that something that only you felt, or is this something that was pretty universal to people you met? Like, were people genuinely unhappy at work, or they were were they seeking that type of creative outlet, but they didn't have a way to showcase it or do that? Or like, do you feel like that was special to you, or
it's like more universal?
I don't know. I'm wondering because
what do you think? Like, I mean, I guess it's not only within law that people find themselves having to focus on a traditional career instead of, creating things just for the sake of creating them. So I think in all careers you would find that tension, that pent up urge of wanting to create. But I guess it's stronger in some people than in others. Like for me, I found myself at work really appreciating, for example, creating PowerPoints and, putting the right icons and designing. So it's like follows the rule of thirds. And, so I realized when I was doing law work that what really interested me was probably not, looking up case law and, making really good legal arguments. It was more like other things, wherever I could get a little bit of creative outlet in work. And I guess some work does have a lot of creative aspects to it. I mean, you have work where you can have a podcast, right? So you can combine your podcast with your work. And I think that's what a lot of people can do. And then maybe there is not that much inner conflict within them because they have, a creative outlet at work. But the problem, I think, is for a lot of people don't get that. And then at some point they just give up maybe, or they think, okay, my life turned out this way. I have to have this work to, make a living, and these creative interests I had, maybe I can do them when I retire.
Or as a hobby on the side.
Yes. In best case, yes. But I think a lot of people don't really have the energy for that. And plus, for a lot of people, work is so stressful and it's, it's so demanding. You always have to be online. You have to answer emails and stuff. So you don't really have the mental bandwidth. And that's what I felt. I didn't really have any hobbies outside of work when I was working as a lawyer because it's so taxing for you. And I think that's the way a lot of people feel.
Yeah. So in your off time, you're kind of recovering or escaping the fact that you have just wasted spent all your energy on the work that you were doing for someone else, that you don't really have time or energy to put into things that you actually care about and you want to use your free time for. I think a lot of people resonate with that, especially if they're living careers or they have jobs that are not very fulfilling, which we know from a lot of the reports coming out. Majority of people are feeling that way, and some people even believe, I think 1/4 believes that, their job is pointless and useless socially and, societally. And I think that when that happens, you have a big disconnect for people. They think, well, here I am spending so many hours of my job for my whole career. And if there's no meaning, if there's no purpose behind it, if there's no creativity or no humanity in it, then they kind of feel that drained by that process. I would assume that would be the case. I know when I haven't been in alignment in my job, I always felt more drained, that my off time and my free time would be spent recovering. I would just be recovering from the job. So I think that's why people always look forward to weekends. Why? I haven't had a weekend. People know this. I haven't had a weekend in at least 2 years. And, people always ask me, how come, you don't want to have a vacation? You don't want to have time off. I was like, why? I love my life. I love my work. I don't need to have a set day of the week. If I have the flexibility, if I really am having a tough week, I can just take a day off. I can decide that. But I think a lot of people look forward to the weekend or to any time off as a way to escape their life, not really to build something more outside of their work. And I think that that's probably what you felt, so that you're like, you know what? I need something else. I need to take advantage of maybe a creative outlet to be able to be my fully human, authentic self. And I think a lot of people don't connect that at work.
Yeah. But I also think that it's the fact that you're so exhausted from work.
Yeah.
But it's also the fact, and this is sad, that we sit scrolling on our phones all the time. It's we have these technologies now that make it really hard to do things that are not super easy. It's when you get home from work and you're a bit tired, and I practice the piano, but I'm a bit tired from work and I come home. Most likely I'm going to sit on the sofa and scroll my phone. I won't sit by the piano because it's a little bit more it takes a little bit more effort.
Yeah.
But what would be more rewarding for me in the mid to long term? Of course, sitting by the piano. Like, I will feel horrible if I sit 2 hours with my phone instead. But I think that's what ends up happening for a lot of people. And I think that's why having work that is really draining for you it has a higher cost today, because it's so hard to do something useful and productive on your off time because of these technologies.
The fact that people are now, there's a convenience culture. It's so much more convenient, so much easier to use your phone, kind of doom scroll hours away of your life. I think since the pandemic, especially, because people were just so used to being on their phones, doom scrolling and, spending time. And we have all the excuses to do that. But I think it's also, we have kind of done away with the social fabric of what would life outside of work be like, right? So if in the past, even with technology, but let's say without it, even if in the past we had technology or without it, we would have so many more reasons to not be on our phones. So we would have like social life. We would go out with friends. We would have third places where we would go and meet up. We would go to the cinema. But now all of these aspects can kind of be done in your home with the bare minimum of inconvenience. If you want to watch a movie, you don't go to the cinema, you watch it on Netflix, you stream. If you want to listen to music, you're not going to go to a record shop or, you're not going to maybe go to a concert. You can just listen at home. So these are things that I think there's so many more, the commodification of this entire system of social life outside of work has made it harder for people to kind of tune out and step away, because they are looking for immediate gratification. They want to be, maybe they don't want to necessarily consciously be on their phones, but they get the dopamine hit of like, oh yeah, I'm doing something, even if it's not the thing I should be doing maybe, towards my own personal life. But I think people, they have a really low threshold for medium to long term gratification, which is kind of what you were touching on. And then they just decide it's so much easier. It's so much, more immediate for me to be on my phone and I guess get the dopamine of likes and like other things and just doom scroll than it is to pay attention or read a book or pay attention to someone in my life and go spend time with them. Yeah. So I think convenience or the ease of it is one aspect, but the other aspect is we have done away with all the reasons for people to leave their homes or to leave their devices, because their devices are their social life, their entertainment, their everything. So I think that that's another aspect.
I agree with that. And I think that, there's always this conflict between what responsibility do you have as an individual and what responsibility is as a society to create, that third room where we can actually meet outside of our phones. And so there will always be that conflict. But I think that because we're talking about creativity, how do you actually do something creative on this time that you have off work when you're super exhausted? I think whatever makes it the absolutely easiest to get started is whatever people should focus on. Because as soon as you get started, then it's almost you get infected with a bug of, just keep doing it. Like if it's a podcast, if you just get some equipment, you just get started, then maybe you cannot not do that instead of, sitting with your phone. I think
I'm going to challenge you on that. I do think it's hard to get started, but I think there was a stat that I read a while ago that 90% of podcasts, they stop after 2 episodes. Okay. So people actually don't continue. So for you to get to top 10% of podcasts, you just need to go beyond, I think, 18 episodes or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think yes, but it's not just
for those people. It's their problem is that they have to get started on something else. They should fail fast. They should be able to podcast.
Yeah, okay.
Let me just get a canvas and a brush and some paint and get started with that. I think that's whatever gets people off, the learned behavior, just sitting by their phones or just answering emails or whatever people do at home. Yeah. I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. I think you're not representative.
Gosh. See, you're making me even more unrelatable.
No, I think you have. I mean, that's already more than a lot of people
do. But I want to build on what you're saying, because I think a lot of people who do start something creative, they just don't have the attention span to continue. Like, they get bored really easily. And I think boredom is a part of the creative process, but people often, they tune out. So I think that's why people don't stick it out. So be it a podcast or any other creative endeavor. And it's so much easier to go back to your phone or to your devices or whatever, because people are not used to boredom anymore. And boredom is meant to be part of the creative process. Like, you need to have moments of, actually, now that I've mastered or I've started this thing, and now maybe it's not novel anymore, it's not new to me anymore, I should still stick at it just to improve. And people, they interpret boredom as a sign to change, to do something else. So I don't think it's necessarily because they had yes, it's hard to start. I agree. But the reason people, they don't stick out with a creative outlet, or they don't really devote a lot of energy to creative endeavors, I think it's because they don't know how to deal with boredom, and they don't know how to deal with making the creative process and understanding the creative process as, a growth, curve. And, if they are if they're challenged, let's say, if they find that it's really hard when they start painting, or they're like, oh, this is shit, they kind of get demotivated, and they don't get the reward that they wanted out of it. So then they change, or they do something else, or they go back to their phone. So I think people are not used to that boredom, or that sort of like feeling of, I'm not good at this, because in our society, we are only rewarded for being good at something, and they don't stick it out long enough to make that into a creative outlet for that reason. I think that's part of the reason why, people quit after a few podcast episodes, or whatever you want to say. Like, a lot of YouTube channels also, we know this, after 2-3 videos, people quit because they were expecting it to go viral within 3 videos. Anyway, we could be talking about this forever.
That's true, but I think there's an important aspect also of what makes people not do things, because people get distracted. Like, you were talking about, okay, so people, they want to have a podcast, but then they get back to their phones or whatever. I think one thing that I found very useful to me is like, okay, so when I go back to my phone, or when I get distracted, what is it that distracts me? And is there some information in that maybe could guide me to what I would find even more interesting. Let's say when I was working as a lawyer still, I got distracted all the time by, I found myself working on the PowerPoint presentations like I was talking about. And, also what also got me distracted was sometimes on the phone, reading stuff about typography and design. So then I was like, maybe there's information in this distraction. This is distraction in this domain, but maybe it's core of the work in some other area. So I think it's also good to, sometimes I think that people just choose the wrong thing. So it's like, now having a podcast is very, it's high status today. Like, you're supposed to be able to do that. And it's very difficult. I know it's very, very difficult. So if it's not something that is close to what you want to do, then it will be really hard, really, really hard. But since it's so, a lot of people have this idea, I have to have a podcast, but maybe they should do something else. That's why I do still think that finding what you want to do is sometimes the hardest part. And then I think you have to try a ton of things. And that's why I really think that it's a great thing to just get started with a lot of things and see what sticks. I mean, because as soon as you find something that you think is so much fun that you won't quit after 2 episodes, then you will, I don't want to bring in like market terms, but you will have sort of an advantage on the marketplace for that creativity. And I think that's the way it worked for me with video. Like, I've been doing videos now for like almost 8 years. And for most of this time, I had almost no viewers, like no external validation at all. But I couldn't not do it, like, because it was so much fun. Like, I enjoyed it so much. And of course, some parts of it was boring. Like you say, you have to like push through that, I think. But I was able to do it because I love it so much, because it's like, this book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic. Have you read it?
Yeah, I have not read it, but I know of it. Yeah.
It's a brilliant book for anyone who wants to do anything creative. But she has this part where the classic quote is like, what would you do if you knew that you couldn't fail? So basically, if you knew that you couldn't fail at podcasts, would you do that? Or would you become a painter? Or would you, do sports or whatever? But then she turns it around and say that, what would you do even if you know that you will fail? So basically, if you know that you will not have any viewers on YouTube, will you still do it? Well, then you should do that. If you will do a podcast, even if you know that you won't have a lot of listeners, you should do a podcast. And I love that because it sort of takes the pressure of it. You just lean into whatever you love doing, and without the expectation of that it has to, have a market validation or whatever. And I think that for a lot of people, the struggle is not to, push through. The struggle is to find that. It's very different for different people. So just have to try stuff out.
I agree. I think a lot of people should try stuff out, but I think the missing bit is that maybe they don't have the self-awareness to say, hey, actually, the reason why I didn't like that or I didn't enjoy this is because X, Y, and Z. And I think they don't have the self-awareness because, then we get into like critical thinking and all this stuff. But you noticed that you were good at PowerPoints and you enjoy that and you're spending more time on that. And that's kind of what led you to maybe I will do something else creative, But I think a lot of people, they don't have that self-perception. Like,
how did you find out that you...
Well, I'm very self-aware. I'm really unrelatable. No, I knew that this was, I didn't know that this was going to be something I would do.
So how did you come up with the idea for the podcast?
We kind of were just like, let's do a podcast. That was pretty much it. I don't think, honestly, a lot of the things that I ended up working on, I kind of just had an inkling that it would be a good idea. Like, I have very strong intuition. And then I'm like, I know all these cool people. This is kind of how the podcast came about. I knew all these cool people, and these people don't know each other, one. And two, people don't know about them, two. And I was like, there's got to be something I can do about it, because I kept meeting people that I was like, oh, you should totally meet this other person that I know. And in my network, often enough, these people would not have met each other. So I was like, you know what? How can I highlight the story, or how can I put them on camera? And, a lot of small businesses, especially like the small scale entrepreneurs that I meet, they are mom and pop shops, they're solopreneurs, and they don't have a marketing department in-house, right? So I also felt that this would be a good way for us to showcase all of these small businesses and all of these creatives, artists that don't have a big platform, and just say, hey, people, go support these people because they're cool and you should, know about them. And that's kind of, the podcast just seemed like a good format for that. And I like conversations and I like long form more than I like short form. So it just made sense. Like, the podcast is a format, but it wasn't something that I was like, oh yeah, let's start a podcast because I want to have a podcast. It's just the formatting. I think a lot of things, they come from a real problem. Like, a lot of the things we end up addressing in our business, it's about, like, it's very design centric, like human centered design. And what we do is we look at a real problem. The problem here is people don't know each other, and they shouldn't know each other. And people should know about these voices that are often unplatformed in Swedish media. And if we platform them in some way, the right people out there who are looking for these, these businesses or these creatives, they will know about them. And this will be free marketing for them, free PR. I get a cool, piece of content out of it that we can put on our YouTube. Great. It seems like a win-win-win situation. The format came later. Probably. Yes. I always have fun. No, but I never do things that I don't have fun with. I think this is like my one, there's two requirements to anything that I do. If I don't enjoy it, I need to enjoy it. That's one. And two, I need to be somewhat good at it. Because if I'm not good at it, like the sort of pressure of, I'm very self-critical. So if I need to watch this over, which I will probably have to watch this podcast to review it with Kika, with our video editor, like 3 more times after this, if I don't enjoy it, I'm going to be very miserable. So it has to be something I feel that I'm good at, or that people often come to me for. Like, if they want to, like, before they would come to me and they would be like, do you know anybody who works with this? And I'll be like, yeah, this other person. I was like, why are they coming through me? Like, I'm not a middle messenger. Like, I can just put this out there. They can find each other,
Frankie, so you also just mentioned the importance of, sticking with it when it gets boring.
Yeah.
When it's tough, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you also say that you don't do things unless you think they're
I'm not contradicting myself. Boredom is still a part of the process. So it's not like misery, okay? If it's miserable, I don't do it. But boredom is, you are stuck with a problem you don't know how to solve. I don't quit when that's the case. I'm like, okay, how can we? And I think that's part of the creative process. It's like, okay, now I'm bored. Maybe this format is feeling a little bit stale. We do that often, like in our meetings. We're like, okay, we're sick and tired of listening to this, sound bite or the way that we're putting the oracles, the labels. So let's switch it up. And I think that boredom also allows you to improve upon the format, upon the way you're doing it. And it's part of the creative process. And also sometimes I just need to sit with the problem. Sometimes I'm like, shit, I don't know how to address this, or I don't know how to solve it without getting better equipment or whatever. We need to get creative about it. I will maybe sit with the problem for 3 weeks. And that's a tough spot to be, but it's not miserable. It's boring maybe to be in that spot because I feel like we don't have the solution. I'm kind of creatively depleted, but it is not miserable. I think it's just it's a slightly different, emotion for me.
Yeah. I guess difficult would be to distinguish between the two because long creative projects will include many feelings.
Yes.
Some of them very, what you would label as bad.
Yeah.
And
self-awareness is where it comes in. This is exactly it. Because I also believe that when you're an entrepreneur, a creative, if 30% of the time you're not feeling like you don't know what you're doing, you're not feeling upset, or you're feeling emotionally drawn out, then you're not pushing yourself hard enough. I really do believe that. But if that's 90% of your time, then you're not in the right business. You're not in the right frame of mind. You're not. So that shouldn't be your constant. I think the challenge is distinguishing, is this temporary or is this something fixed? If I'm in a career or I'm value misaligned in my job, if that is not temporary, if that's going to be like that for the next 40 years, I better quit that job. Because I am going to be miserable every single day going into work. So that's kind of how I realized that I wanted to do something a little bit more creative. I think in a lot of ways, I always liked, communication. I always so beyond the podcast, we do a lot of other things that are around communication. And I always like critical theory and kind of travel, culture, languages. These are all things that I enjoy learning about. And I just thought, okay, what is a job or a career or a business that can kind of center around this? And then we built the whole business intentionally around the problems that we faced, in the Stockholm region. And this kind of came from a project that we did with Stockholm Stad. So a lot of it was intentional along the way. So I'm always curious when people kind of accidentally jump into things and then they end up being like, oh my God, yeah, I found out what I wanted to do or that I was really motivated to do because I just kind of started it and I really enjoyed it. I think that that's a luck of the draw. Because for me, I did try a lot of things out when I was younger until I realized that none of those things was something I wanted to spend the next 40 years doing. And then when I found the right people, the right team, I was like, okay, now we can build a project very intentionally addressing these specific problems. And if the problems evolve, or if we change the questions we're working on, that's okay because we're still going to enjoy each other's company. We're still going to enjoy the work itself. We're still going to enjoy the growth process. So I think, that's the reasons why people keep coming back to working in a creative field, I think, because you enjoy the process.
I think it's for people who are thinking about making a change in their life. Do you think it's difficult for them unless they are miserable? Do you think you have to be miserable to actually dare to do it?
Yeah, I think that quote, the pain of staying the same needs to be greater than the pain of change. Because a lot of people, I think I have a low tolerance. So that's why I got to it faster than a lot of people that I meet today. It maybe took them 20 years longer to get to a place where I'm at. And they're like, they always say I'm so envious that you figured this out all in your 20s or whatever. And I was like, well, maybe because I have a very low tolerance for bullshit and authority. Maybe that's why I figured that out earlier. But I think a lot of people, they have a high tolerance for, comfort. So they just want to be comfortable. And in that comfort, that means they will put up with whatever. They either, they just think that, again, the pain of staying the same is not greater yet for them to actually enact change in their lives. And this can be very frustrating this is another thing that makes me unrelatable. It makes it very frustrating for someone like me because let's say your friend comes to you and they're saying, I hate my job. I'm going to be the kind of person who's like, okay, let's work on it. Let's work on your CV, your cover letter. Let's find you another job, you know? They keep coming back to me with the same issue. Oh, I hate my job. Every time we meet, I hate my job. After the third time, I'm like, dude, I already told you what to do, you know? And I think to them, that is not a very compassionate response, which totally fair. But I personally, like, the tolerance that I have towards that is very low. But for them, it's like, well, I'm just complaining about my job. That's normal. But I'm willing to waste 4 years of my life in a job that I don't like. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me, right? You're miserable. I can tell you're miserable because of your job. Just switch it up. You know, life is too short, or whatever platitudes you want to use. But I think people don't have that, they have really high tolerance they just want to be comfortable. And if that pain is not enough, they will be stuck in a position. That's why people say stuck in toxic relationships. That's why people get stuck in, unfortunate events with their family, with their whatever, because they have really high tolerance.
I think there's also sort of something with our economic system that makes, at least when it comes to work, that you don't quit work even though you're miserable.
Yes.
Because, we have this, some people are really precarious situations. To live in a city like Stockholm, maybe you have to buy your own apartment and you have a mortgage, and you cannot afford to lose your job, basically. That's one aspect. And I think that the way we view work today is also giving this false illusion of security with work that people don't want to lose.
Yes, this was something I wanted to talk to you about, because I know one of the big themes in your YouTube channel is the nature of work, the future of work, why do we work? And the other theme is more like inequality economics. But let's talk a little bit about work, because I know that when you started the YouTube channel, a lot of the ideas you because you put a little bit of yourself in every video, and I like that, actually. And I think that people are starting to question a little bit more. Why do we work? What is the nature of work? Why do we think work is essential? And what does work actually mean? Because to someone like me, if you ask me, work for me is like purpose, meaning. It means a lot because it's like my whole life and I really enjoy it, right? But to people, work is just work. And then they can tune out and they'll be like, then I spend time with my family. It doesn't matter what I do for work. I have a life outside of work. And so I'm wondering, how did these feelings come about? Was it during your experience in the States that you started to feel like, okay, this notion I have of work is totally different depending on the culture, on the context? When did this start, and how do you see it today?
Well, I think that it started earlier than that. I think that's because my first job was as a telemarketer. So,
yes, I know.
When I went to high school, basically, in the evenings, I sat in this cellar where I was calling old ladies, trying to sell them lottery tickets and magazine subscriptions. And that was obviously a horrible job. People hated me in that job, and I hated doing the job. And I think that gave me, since that was my first entry point to the labor market, I think I had a pretty cynical view already from the start. I realized that you can make a lot of money doing something that is not very useful to society. Mm. And then after that, I worked in a store for many years, also when I was a law student. And that felt more valuable, but it also felt like a real job in the sense that when I came into work, I was on stage. You were in this store, people are asking you things, you have to, charge for things by the register. So I knew what it was like to have one of those jobs. Then when I became a lawyer, and then you have this job that it's tough. It's very, difficult in many ways, but it's still kind of comfortable. You sit in an office, like you can work from home. It's like people treat you well. So I've seen many different types of jobs, and that has made me think a lot about, so what jobs do we need? What is a job for? Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of obvious that there are a lot of work we do in society that are not really needed, right? We don't need telemarketers. Most lawyers, we don't need, like, a lot of things you do as a lawyer. Okay. It's just like financialized bullshit. Like, it's about very rich people, like, selling stuff to other very rich people, and they sell it back and forth, and all the financial intermediaries take a cut for every transaction. And that's the people who earn the most money in society, which is kind of weird that's what we value the most. It's very, very strange. Well, there are some work in society that is extremely needed. I mean, we need plumbers. We need people who, take care of the trash. We need people who are teachers. We have so many work that actually needs to be doing that earns less than these people who just, shuffle money around. So
Yeah.
I have a pretty cynical view of work in general. And I think that on a personal level, if you can sort of try to internalize that and realize whatever I do is not that important, I can just do something else. I think that can be valuable for you on a personal level as well. And on a societal level, I think that we really need to rethink how we value different type of work. And I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the universal basic income movement, but I think that I'm not sure where I stand if I think it's a good idea or not, but I think the idea that we would have a universal basic income would be terrific, because all of a sudden I think that would sort of, when people don't really need to work, then why would anyone be a telemarketer? Like if you don't need to. People do that because they're forced to have a job. But if you remove the element of force, then society could all of a sudden reward the job that actually needs to be done. And that really intrigues me, I think. And I mean, also you've experienced different types of jobs as well. I think that you've also seen that the value you can contribute now when you have your own business and you've identified certain things that needs to that can improve to, platform certain people who wouldn't be platformed otherwise. You probably felt that as well, that the difference in value you contribute to society is not reflected in the difference in value you get in your paycheck, right? That's kind of obvious.
Yes. Yet, I do think critically that, for example, the notion of UBI, the Universal Basic Income, let me pose this question to you. What would people do if they don't have a job? It's not even about the work itself. Yes, I do agree some work needs to be valued more highly in society. It needs to be compensated accordingly. It also needs to be seen as more prestigious or high status, because then people will value it more. But I struggle with this idea of if people don't have work, because I see work so differently. Like I really do see work as like purpose, meaning, it's a drive for progress personally, professionally, whatever, societally. So if people don't work, what will they do instead? Like in the concept of UBI, because I agree, people shouldn't have to work just to survive. I agree with that. Like I agree that we all should have basic human rights, access to food, shelter, care, education. We agree on that. What's the next step, which is if people don't have work or they don't have a job or they don't have something that they have to fill their times with, what will they be doing instead? And I think a lot of people would become creative. They would become artists. So they will still produce some form of work, but I think a lot of people wouldn't. So what would they do instead? Would they just have a meaningless kind of purposeless life and just be scrolling on their phones or computers, or I don't know. What do you think they would be doing instead?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult question, but I think let's take the telemarketer. So let's say the telemarketer goes from doing harm to society by being a telemarketer, right? And all of a sudden doesn't need to do that. Mm-hmm. It's still a benefit, even if that person does not really do anything. It's a benefit for that person. It's a benefit for society.
Yes, because they stop the harm. Okay, we can agree on that.
And I think that the harm aspect is, harm is a very strong word, but I think there's a lot of useless things are being done that are just, shuffling money around, or it's just done for, historical reasons. I mean, I think there's some research done where they try to, estimate the societal harm of different work. Like, for example, quantify how much does banking hurt society. And even like bankers, a lot of bankers, we could not do anything and it would be better for society and maybe for them as well. Maybe it's because even if they would not do anything that you would consider as, purposeful work, like trying to create a company, something like that, they would spend more time with their family, probably. They would most definitely be better parents. I think, we get better at whatever we do. Like if we spend all of our days in work that is kind of meaningless, we get very good at like doing some meaningless tasks at work. If we spend more time at home, I think we would be better at that as well. So I'm not so worried about it. However, I do worry about the fact that this is a very difficult time to implement, that on a wide scale, because we do have a problem today, I think, with the way we interact with technology. I think it's also the whatever software we have on the technology is kind of harmful to us.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the algorithms and
yes,
because my thesis is that I think that some people would spend more time with their family, things like that, obviously. But I think a lot of people would just be very aimless, because we've been in this kind of system, at least for 200, 300 years, right? Since capitalism has been, the main system, economic system. I think people would feel a little bit aimless, and maybe there would be some sort of state of anarchy for a little while. But I don't think necessarily, because I think you have a very optimistic view actually on what people would end up doing. Because I don't think they would necessarily see it as an opportunity to, now let's spend more time with my family, contribute socially, volunteer my time, whatever. I think that people would not, I don't think that's inevitably the outcome of having more time. Because if you look at people who do have more free time, like be it retirees or I don't know, like people who retire early because economically they can, do they all end up doing noble causes? Not necessarily. Do they all end up becoming better parents, grandparents? Not necessarily. So I don't think that it's inevitable that people would end up doing that, but I think it is nice to give them the option. I mean, to have the option to say, I don't need to work just to survive or just to, so then I can have the option if I do want to do higher calling noble things like spend time with my family or my grandkids or volunteer at the local, soup kitchen. I'm allowed. I'm able to do that. But I don't know if everyone, I think this is also the nature of people, like if they would feel driven to contribute and give back. I don't know if that's necessarily the inevitable outcome of UBI and just generally getting rid of work.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think I don't think that has to be the goal though, for it to still be valuable. Because I still think it's like, even if you just hang out, like I think can be value to that. And I think that, also you get rid of the worst sides of our labor market right now, the worst precarity and
exploitation.
Yeah, especially also that, but also, people who are doing harmful things, I think. But it's a very difficult question. I think that I'm not convinced that it's a good idea. Definitely not. That's why I haven't done a video about UBI. And maybe I will do that at some point. But I think it's very difficult. But I do think it is weird though, or it is worth reflecting on the fact that now we have this huge material wealth. We have, we can, we all have the food, the clothes, the shelter, everything we need, plus way, way more.
Yeah.
Which means that what we do every day is not really to ensure that we get that. But we need to realize today that work today mainly serves a redistributive purpose.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's basically the purpose of all these service jobs is for all of us who are not, sewing clothes, farming stuff, that we can still get some of that because we still need it. Because
wealth concentration and like there's not distribution of wealth and services equally across people who need it based on need. Do you think that because there's no need for work that it makes it necessarily meaningless?
Yeah, some work is not needed, but in the sense that it doesn't fulfill any of our needs. And I think that's very few jobs today are actually designed to, make sure that we get our basic needs. I mean, how many people do we need as farmers? And of course, some of that is in other countries that we don't see. But I think that in general, most of us do work that is not designed to fulfill any basic needs. So then we have to think, okay, what do they fulfill? And then it becomes very, very complex. Let's say that you are an HR manager for an IT consultancy company. Like, how does that contribute to the fulfillment of basic needs for us? I think that it becomes very complex. And I know that if you would ask an economist, that person would have a different answer than a sociologist.
Yeah. So how do you rank these jobs? Yeah, this is, I think I would assume part of it is very subjective. Like each person will have a different view on the value of this job.
Yes.
If you ask the HR manager, maybe they'll value it very highly because they're like, it's my job. Don't get rid of my job.
I think so. I think that people can value it very differently, but I think that we all have agreed as a society that the ultimate way to value it is the financial. Like, what does the market pay for it? So let's say that we have this idea that the market will pay whatever a work contributes as value. So let's say that you're an HR manager and you make like 80,000 Swedish crowns per month. Most people would answer, well, the market decides what the value is. But I think it's very, very important to realize that's incorrect. That's not how it works. There's so many other things that goes into that. So I think that we all should think about, okay, what is the value of an HR manager at an IT company? I would say it's very, very low. And I say that with all respect to HR managers. I think that the value of the work I did as a corporate lawyer is very, very low. And I say that with respect to my former colleagues as well. But I think that it's important that we don't fool ourselves, because it's so easy to, we internalize the market value of things. So let's say that I have very high paid job, then I'm going to have like a very high status, right? I'm going to, strut around. And there's research showing this, that people earn a lot of money. They become a little bit more arrogant,
Yeah.
They're less likely to stop at like a crosswalk for pedestrians.
Yeah.
So I think we internalize whatever the market says something is worth. And I think that's sad.
I think we can go deep into this, but I want to get to these questions because I feel like we can talk for hours about all kinds of topics like this. But do you always think first when you're creating a new video, or you're thinking about creating a new video? Do you always think first, is this something I want to talk about? So it is a like creator first perspective. And then you're like, can I convince people about my opinion and about my view on this? And then that's why you do the video documentary. You're like, how do you go about your process? Walk me through it from like conceptualization to execution.
Okay. So it starts with, I think it all starts with curiosity for me. Like curiosity is like the core value for me. I read a lot. To me, it's also one of the things that I realized that I could do more of when I quit my job as a corporate lawyer. I could implement this thing where I try to read 1 hour every morning.
Yeah.
And just reading 1 hour every morning, it's like a superpower. Like you get you get so much inspiration. You get so many ideas. And based on that process, I was like, finding so many ideas that was like, oh, this is amazing. I have to tell people about this. Like, oh, this is how it works. Like, how come people don't know? So I think that inspiration and that urge of being like, I have to explain this to people. Whenever I feel that's when I make a video. So it's more an input question. I try to get as good inputs as possible. And if I get good inputs, then I find topics.
So usually but the inputs you get, is it mostly from books?
Yes, that works the best for me.
Not social media or...
No.
Okay.
It's like, that's very interesting. Like I can sit, let's say that I don't use social media, but every now and then I use some type of social media. Let's say that I sit for 2 hours reading news online, and I sit on my phone, like getting inputs. I almost never get anything like useful from that. Then I go to the library and I usually go to Riksdagsbiblioteket, which is a fantastic game.
Great place to go and do some research as well about like all kinds of topics. Yes.
Yeah, you've been there?
Yeah, we go there all the time as a team to do some Stockholm research and things like that. So yeah,
it's great. So you can just walk around the shelves there. You can pick up a few books, and all of a sudden you get stuck in one, and then you spend like half an hour. You're like, this is so interesting. Why don't more people like know about this? And it can be about anything from, sociology or economics or whatever. So I think that the book format is unparalleled in its ability to organize ideas into a system that is possible for us to comprehend in the most advanced way possible for us. Like, let's say that I want to learn something new about the topic. a book is such a great way for me to be able to do that as well as possible. A video like I do, I mean, I would love to say that it's a great way to transmit information, but it's not. Like, it's entertainment. And I say that with some sadness, because I wish that when I make a video about an idea, that it would really, through my video, people, really learn about it, and it changes the way they behave. It probably won't. It's like, you watch a video, it goes in here, it goes out there.
Really? You think that way?
Yes, I definitely think
I think that way about short form videos. Yeah. But your videos, I don't think that that's the case. Any video that, like, I can tell people did a lot of research about, and just a video essay as a format. Again, going back to the format, or a podcast being long form, I think people have more time to actually process what you're saying and have their own opinions about it. Like, I was watching your videos in preparation for this interview, and I kept thinking, oh yeah, I don't agree with this, or I agree with this, because it triggers, I think, in the same way that a book can trigger, because it's still a long form. I think that's the biggest difference, short form versus long form. Long form, information, inputs and stimuli, that triggers a different pathway in your brain to actually start to critically assess and think and be curious about what you're reading or what you're assessing or what you're listening to and watching that is longer than 3 seconds on TikTok. Yeah. So I think it's actually the long form pathway. But for that, you need attention span. And attention span, we know it comes from actually holding things physically, writing things down on paper, reading a physical book. So if you have a longer attention span from doing those activities, I think then you do get more out of a long form video. So a different format, but a long form video than you would get if you don't have a good attention span to begin with. But I think that it's interesting how you're saying that the things that trigger you are like, oh, I wonder why people don't know about this, or more people should know about this, that those are the things you then decide to focus and develop a video around. Because I think that's a very intuitive way, because you're thinking, oh, if I didn't know about this, or now I'm like very like shocked, or I'm curious about this, probably other people will be as well. Do you feel like when you shared it with your friends or family, has it ever happened that they come back to you and they're like, oh, actually, you did change my mind about this, or you made me think about this? Do you get any sort of that, like, in physical feedback? I know you read the comments, but I'm saying like physical in-person feedback. Do you get any of that?
From friends and family, you mean?
Yeah, from people who you encounter physically.
Not that much. Like, I've been recognized a few times, but then it's usually just, keep doing what you're doing, whatever. It's not like any deep
like feedback. In-depth, informative feedback. Okay.
So it's never that, someone came up with me, like, to me and be like, okay, the thing you said about private equity, I changed my mind. I started working private equity and I'm going to become like a preschool teacher. That hasn't happened. People reach out to me through email and stuff, and like sometimes it gets not that extreme of a story, but people say like, oh, this really resonated with me. But usually I think it's people who have thought something similar, and then I formulate it, or like I explain it in a way that they wanted to do themselves. That's where it really resonates, because that's what I feel myself. Like, when I see something that reflects what I've been thinking for a long time, but then someone, says it out loud, that's when you're like, want to stand up and, pump your fist in the air, because you're like, this is so good. I totally agree. Because you usually you already thought that, right?
Yeah. So you want confirmation bias a little bit. Reassurance. You want the reassurance.
Confirmation bias? That sounds so negative.
I mean, but you are getting confirmation bias if you're like, yeah, I totally agree with this. So
yeah, that's true. I guess it's some form of confirmation bias, but also sort of a sense of organizing thoughts. Like, you've been thinking of something about inequality, maybe. You'll be like, okay, so I think it's weird that, different work pays so differently. And then you read, a work of a sociologist, explains why that is, and, maybe brings in some research. And of course, it's sort of confirmation bias on my feeling, but it's also organizing that thought into something more valuable.
Yeah.
I think that's more common than people who okay, so I think that inequality might be a problem. And then I read like a book about that inequality is not a problem at all. I'm like, oh shit, I thought it was a problem. That's kind of unusual, and that's sad. But that's the way it is. That's also why I did one video because I was actually thinking a lot about this, because I started making videos where I, trying to convince people or like at least explain ideas. But then I actually started thinking, okay, so what effect does this have?
Yeah, I watched that video of yours.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot because I'm the kind of person I will argue with someone because I do believe, like, deep down I can change your mind.
Yeah.
But I don't think it happens immediately.
Yeah.
I actually think because of these priors, you talked a lot about priors in that video, and these biases that people have inherently, like they're subconscious, like you can't even activate them. But I think you can actually plant a seed that if they have any sort of doubt, because I think people, if they believe anything 100%, like 100% sure, you're just like stupid. Okay. Like we know this, but if they're just 99% sure and you can plant a seed of doubt of like, you know what, maybe go check your sources, or you know what, maybe it's not exactly as you're viewing it. Maybe there's something in your personal experience that has told you that that's the truth.
Yeah.
I think you can plant seeds. And I think that going to your point about, I think the benefit of being a unique individual, like one single person, reframing or reparaphrasing or contextualizing things in a different way means that maybe people will connect with you there, but they wouldn't connect with another person saying exactly the same thing. Because maybe it's the fact that you're, you are who you are, you look the way you look, whatever. People associate and they connect with that.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
What's your favorite part of creating videos?
Like creating, because I do like this pretty, not super ambitious, but pretty long projects where, the script writing takes a long time. The editing process, the animations, everything takes a very long time. So I think each of those parts have like this period when you see it all like coming together, that's when it feels the best. And this can be like when I write the script and finally, you can see that there is like some sort of red thread within the script, or like it comes together, you realize, okay, this will actually work as a video. That's a great feeling. But then you start making the video and then it feels like very tough again. You're like, this is not going to be good. Then all of a sudden it feels like it starts coming together. That's the best part.
Yeah. When you press publish, do you feel this is the best version that this video is going to be? Or do you still feel like, is there any perfectionism in your process? Or do you feel like, no, it's good as it is. It just needs to be done and released?
Yeah, I probably like it on, if you have a like spectrum between, people who, they can just put something together and put it out there. And then like on the other hand, you have people who never release anything.
Yeah.
So never get, I'm more towards that end. Like I probably work too long on my stuff, but finally I found like a balance where I still think that it's worth it, right? So I do a lot of small details for a video, like, something with a sound design or something that I know that very few people will notice. Like a lot of people watch them on the subway, like on a mobile.
Yeah, very tiny.
They won't even notice these things, but I still find them rewarding. So I'm a more of a perfectionist type of person, but when I release something, I'm sort of, this is fine. Now I just want to get this out of the way so to start with something else because I'm so tired of it.
Yeah. You've already exhausted the detail work. You know what I noticed in one of your videos that I was like, holy crap, like he's literally putting so much work into this. It's the most random thing. It was that you highlighted. So you had like an arrow pointing somewhere, but you literally made an animation to go and like highlight the arrow, like the lights of like, it was a red line. I can't really think about what it was now, but I was like, why would he do that? He could literally just put a static arrow and just like not change anything about this. But you literally went and did that little detail. And I was like, I would never, like I always tell my editor, because she also tends to be more of a perfectionist. I always tell her, please don't do that to yourself. You're going to drive yourself mad if you're like putting so much detailed work. But I really thought it was impressive because I noticed it. I usually notice a lot of cinematography and little details. I'm a huge like film nerd. So I notice these little things, or when people do foreshadowing, or when they're holding onto an object and then that object appears again, and like, I really love those things, but I'm like, why would they ever do that to themselves? Like, I know how much work this would have involved in production. So I was like, in post-production, I was like, I would never do that.
Yeah, I guess it's also like, I mean, for people who do the stuff like that, they probably think it's fun. Like, it's like if you would do it like under, market conditions where you have a budget and you have to like, you cannot like exceed
Yeah, that's
budget,
true.
then you wouldn't be able to do it. These are like passion projects for me. Like I'm able to do all of that stuff because I love it so much. And I would never trade that away because I love it.
So these are the things that you enjoy about the process, but what is the least favorite thing that you like? What is your least favorite part of creating a new video?
I think it's about, because I publish my videos on YouTube. That's the platform I use now. Maybe it won't be forever, but the problem with YouTube, or not the problem, but you have to play by the rules there. Like if you want people to watch your video, you have to have like an attractive thumbnail that, cures a gap. It makes people click.
Yeah.
And I don't like that process because it's like, it feels like, that's a whole world of, there are trends coming and going. Like you have to be a little bit clickbaity that way, but it still has to reflect the actual content, because otherwise people click and then they like, this is what I wanted. So that's a whole feel. Like there's so much going into that. And if you want to do it well, you really have to focus on it. And I don't, it's like
so you're not an analytics guy being like, oh, I need to be improving my click-through rate or.
Yeah, exactly. No, like I don't enjoy it. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Like if I would ever work together with other people, and we can talk more about working alone compared with a team. If I would have a team, that would be my dream, to have someone else do all of that stuff.
Yeah. Do the analysis and then kind of informing and letting you know, hey, maybe if you improve this section. Okay. So you'd rather not do that. And maybe delegate that.
Yes.
Was there ever an opportunity maybe to work with other people? Like, is this something that you even have a desire to do eventually? Or you're like, no, this is a solo project. I'm in my little bubble. I want to do all the video editing myself. Is this just something like you want to do alone? Well,
I'm curious to hear what went into your decisions, because we talked about this before, that you hate working alone. And you have this team around you now. And I would love to do that as well. What I see as the downside of what makes me hesitant about that is that I also love the freedom of being able to, like, do something that is a bit irrational, and to spend a lot of time on something, then my team would have to wait. And, when you work with a team, a lot of your freedom or like your liberty to do exactly as you want gets lost. Is that
interesting? I don't think so. I think I have a lot. I think I get a lot more freedom because I have a team, because I can delegate. I can kind of like, I can also use the fact that they're a different person, right? From me. So they will have ideas that it's happened so many times that I've lost count, but they will come up with an idea for how to improve a piece of content or improve a campaign or improve whatever, a process that I know myself, I would never have come up with that idea. And I think this is also where you get that variety of work. If you're saying that you're struggling a little bit with this, variety of work for me, because that is a really important core value in my workplace. I need to switch things up. I get bored, but not in the good kind. Like I get bored really easily. And if I'm not doing different things, like even throughout the day or throughout the weeks, then I start to feel like, oh, this is just another routine. It's just very monotonous. But with my team, that's the benefit of having a team. It's like, if I'm feeling like this part of the process is no longer enjoyable for right now, because I need a break, maybe I need like a creative break from it, then I delegate that away and they can still take on and the work gets done. Because for me, the most important thing always is the work gets done. I'm like executional in that. Like execution skills is probably like the most important skills I think you can develop as an entrepreneur, is just like getting stuff done. And if it gets done, then I'm happy. I feel like not only productive, but I feel like, we accomplished something. I'm proud of what we're putting out. And maybe it's not the best thing that we could have ever done, but next time, like we learn by putting out quantity, it will become quality over time. So next time we will have learned something new and we could have improved on that. So now looking back on the videos we made in the very early stages, like I'm like, oh, I should have fixed that part, or we should have really, delved into that. But then I'm like, yeah, but we learned. So now we're doing better. So with the team, I feel like they give me the variety and the freedom, because when I don't want to do certain things or I don't feel particularly creatively aligned with a part of the process, I delegate it away. There's also aspects of the team for me, this is not the case for everybody, like for example, management and talent development that I really enjoy. I really enjoy being like a coach and a mentor. Like I told you, like we have Erasmus students. We also have people on my team who maybe have not worked in this sort of configuration, like freelance or, not in this entrepreneurial mindset. And I like coaching them, and I like encouraging them. And, and I always say, like, if you're looking for the next opportunity and you don't see a place for growth within the team, I am going to be the cheerleader that you need to maybe get that next job. And because I never want to like hoard people if they don't want to stay here. And I think the best part and the freedom that they give me is that when I know things are not going maybe in my favor, I still know I can count on them. I can count on the team, because when you work alone, you bear both all of the joy and all of the things that you need to do that you enjoy about the process, but you also bear the responsibility. And I really struggled with that. I really struggled with, well, I guess if I have nobody holding me accountable, then I can just be miserable and wallow in my own self-pity and just not get stuff done. And, it's all on me. And when you have other people, a team of people, they hold you accountable also to like the goals and the dreams and the projects you say you're committing to. So I guess part of it is just, I always say I have no discipline. I really have no discipline. But the only reason why I get stuff done is because I have people who hold me accountable, and I hold them accountable to it too. And, but the team aspect, I also think you need to have like managerial skills, talent development skills. Like you need to be able to see how you can help each other grow. Because if you're just the kind of person who's like, okay, I'm going to delegate this away, but don't talk to me about the work. Like I just want you to handle that. Then that is not going to be also a positive experience for them. It's not going to be an exchange of value. And I think in a team that works, in a functional team that people feel valued and they feel like their work matters and gives them meaning, there needs to be an exchange of value. Okay, I don't know where we're going with that, but...
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
So, I hear you about all those benefits, but I guess one of the downsides I haven't really touched upon, it's the fact that it restricts your ability, like as soon as you have employees, so you have other people counting on you. You have to maintain a certain, revenue, or like you have to make sure that all of these get paid and happy and all those things. Don't you ever feel like that's, okay, this sounds harsh, but trap you?
No, I think, okay, how can I put this? I think I have a very different view of that, of work. And going back to the earlier discussion, what does that mean? It means that I believe people create their own opportunity. I believe that if they want to be part of my team, they have to also kind of justify, because I don't like this sort of idea of, oh, if you're employed by someone, you get away with the responsibility of how you're going to pay the bills. You get it? Because I think a lot of people have that false sense of security. Oh, I'm employed. Therefore, I can't get fired. I can't get, I'm set, like I have more safety net. I have a comfort zone. And I think, with a lot of people that I work with, I'm very transparent. So I say, like, this is the state of the company. I mean, it's not your job to worry about all the bills that don't pertain to your job, but your job, the only reason why it exists is because we created it together. There was a demand and there's a need, but you also need to maintain the job. Like the job would not exist without you. And if you want to keep this job, like you need to bring in revenue and value, right? So I think that it's about making sure the intentionality of it is like every position we create, it's because there is value in it. Because otherwise, if it's a useless job or it's just a job where I'm like throwing, things to the side, then I don't need that person on the team. We create the value together. Economically, the value also needs to match. So if the person, we create a new job, they have to have economic output that justifies the creation of the new job. I don't think the two things are mutually exclusive. So in having these conversations, obviously not everybody's in that mindset because they think, oh, I'm getting hired, then therefore it's not my job to worry about getting more customers or getting more sales or whatever. And actually, I think it is part of their job to do that. And I think when we have these very honest, transparent discussions from the start, because I make this very clear, like in the interview stage, that this is the state of the company. This is where we're going. This is the sort of responsibility you would have. I think it also motivates people because they feel like, oh, actually, I'm an integral part of this team. Like if I was not here, we would not be bringing in this business or we not be bringing in this value economically. So they're creating, I really believe in this, like people creating their own opportunity because I created this job. This job did not exist. So if I can create it, you can create it. It's not a limiting factor. Yeah. And I don't feel trapped. I think I do feel the responsibility of like
14 hours a day though.
Yeah, but I like it.
You don't have weekends.
But I like it. I mean, I know it sounds strange because again, I think we have a very different perspective on work.
Maybe. Yeah.
I have this relationship to work that if I'm having a bad day, going to work will make it better. And that's, I mean, how many people can say that? Really, truthfully, if I'm having a moment in time in my own personal life where I feel like out of motivation or I feel depressed, going to work and doing the work keeps me grounded. Like genuinely. And a lot of people, they don't, it makes me so unrelatable. I really know this because nobody can comprehend it. Like when I try to explain it to people, it's really hard. But I think for me, it's also understanding that if I created this job, we can create anything. Like we can really create value out of anything. But if the value is not there, then it's not justifiable. The responsibility though, going back to the entrapment, I really don't feel trapped. I feel like, if anything, I'm held accountable and I want to be like, I kind of want to be the boss or the manager or the leader to my employees, to the people I work with, my collaborators that I know they deserve. So it's like a social contract in a way. Like I'm saying, well, you're not just held liable to me as an employee. I also need to be the best version of manager, boss, leader, whatever that you can be, that I can be for you. And I think that's a really powerful thing because it holds me accountable. I do need to show up to work because otherwise I have no discipline. Like, I'm not the kind of person like,
I don't believe that though.
But I'm not the kind of person who's like 4 a.m. Let's wake up. And like, I hate early mornings. That's another reason why I became an entrepreneur. I was like, no meetings before 10 a.m. people. I am a night owl. But genuinely, I have no discipline. I would not come into work. That's why I have an office. I was like, I needed a reason to leave the house and do work because at home, I feel like I don't want to do anything. So it's like, I find ways that, and reasons, and usually it's people, to hold me accountable to the work that I know I need to do and that I enjoy doing. Because otherwise it can be very purposeless. I'm an all or nothing kind of, very black and white. This is my autistic side. It is like very black and white. Yeah. Anyway. Okay.
That's very interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, but I don't think people understand it. And I don't expect you to. Like, I am explaining myself a little bit away, but it's not something that comes naturally to most people that I've spoken with because they don't view it the same way I do. And I understand that. They don't view having employees the same way I do. They also don't view having a team the same way I do. So it's really hard for me to say, yeah, just do it the way I did. And you will find, you'll find a way to manage the responsibility or whatever. I do think it's intrinsic, like mindset, the way you view work, the way you view team, managing people. So maybe you can change that. I don't know. I've never, it's intuitive to me. So, I wanted to ask you who or what would be a dream guest or idea to showcase on your channel? Do you have any like bucket list?
Well, I'm fortunate enough to be that I've actually sort of ticked off some of them already. Yeah. Like one of them was Roland Paulsen, the sociologist, who his books really like opened my thinking to ideas I hadn't explored before at all. And we did a video together, and it's actually now a friend of mine.
Nice.
Like the same way you explained that some of your guests are like friends of yours. Mm-hmm. I think that's one one benefit of doing interviews is that you get to know other people, and also Rutger Bregman, who I did a video with. So I guess I would love to do one with Jason Hickel. He's not extremely well known.
Yeah, no, I know him. Yeah, The Economist, and he's also like part historian. He's always like speaking truth to power, and yeah, I love Jason Hickel. Yes,
Yeah.
I think he would be a really cool guest.
Yeah, actually, I've tried to it's sometimes a logistics question if people are not in, I mean, they're traveling around, you know.
Yeah.
But usually I've been very, very fortunate in that most people who I want to interview, when they see my stuff, they want to do it because they're like, okay, that sounds cool. Or like, I mean, it's a bit because what I do, I read a book or I read people's articles, and then I, try to explain their ideas in my videos. So I give people a platform that is kind of flattering to them in that sense, which makes it easier to get people on. I don't do like hit jobs. Like I'm very, very, sensitive to trying to make the people who agree to come on my show to make them look good.
Yeah.
So that, I try my utmost to make, that to remove stutters and stuff as much as I can, because I want their ideas to also shine. And, I try to do like visuals for what they're saying and stuff like that. So I have so many people I would love to do videos with. It's also like, because it's such a huge investment for me to make a video, because when I decide to make a video, it takes so long time to do it that I only want to start projects that I really want to finish.
Yeah. How do you deal with haters? And this is not a question here, but why not?
So I don't, you've said that that I read YouTube comments. I don't.
You don't, you just read those ones to pile them up because you had a video. An introduction video about it.
But because there I made a point of it. So I knew that I had gotten a lot of like people think that I'm a leftist, and like I don't care about it. I think it's a bit funny, and then I was like, this is perfect way, because so my videos usually start from the middle. Like I have an idea that I want to explain, so I start with the explanation in the middle. Then like, okay, this is boring. I have to have like something to start it with, some personal anecdote, something that makes it a little bit juicy to have like a hook. So then I was like, oh, maybe I can like, talk about my channel and comments. People think stuff like that is interesting. So it's just a device to get people into the video.
The narrative. Okay. But you actually don't read comments then?
I don't read comments.
I read all the comments.
Yeah.
So, well, why? Did you actively like made that a point that you're not going to read comments?
I think it's, I actively made the point because I have a Patreon. There I read everything. Like if people want to reach out to me, if they're a Patreon, I will read whatever they write. I will respond to it. And people email me if they, make the effort to find my email and email me, I will read it. Like I will read the email. But like the comments is just the volume is, and the quality of the comments is so low because it's like, you just write up a comment. It's like you don't really put a lot of thought into it. Sometimes like, people are like positive. That's nice. It's always nice, but it's always nice. People are like, sorry for being explicit, but maybe someone's like, oh, you sound like you have a dick in your mouth, or like, something really rude. Like, it's like, it's not helpful for me to read that. But
you don't go through them or delete them or anything like that?
No, I don't do anything of that. YouTube has, it takes out the worst.
Yeah, that's true. So, they do have some moderation, but,
yeah, so I don't go through it. No, I don't. Like, and I think that's very nice. It's also, I think, we talked about dopamine hits. I think that's one of the things that gives us one of the strongest dopamine hits, like social interaction, validation, feedback, stuff like that. So it's very easy to like get your dopamine levels depleted by constantly going checking comments. Like you have this bell on YouTube. I have this thing that removes that. So it's also a sense of like, I don't want the distraction. It's like, because as soon as you start depleting your dopamine levels, it's going to be more hard for me to, read books and write the scripts and all these like high concentration things I need to do. So that's why I don't do it.
Wow.
Then I focus on like the Patreon. The Patreon, I get very good, sometimes very critical, like really good comments and feedback. But that's for like people who actually like care, who actually watch the video. I know that some people who comment on YouTube, they haven't even watched the video.
Yeah, they watch like 10 seconds and they already have an opinion that they want to share. Or they're bots or...
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know.
Okay.
Bother. All
right. So to wrap up, what kind of content do you think we should be seeing more of online?
Content like yours. I think that long form content. I think that if you have an idea and like the drive and the creativity to create content, you should put that into long form content, or at least not short form content, like the reels, the TikToks. I think we should avoid that because it's such a waste of like creative energy.
Is it a waste because mostly it's lacking nuance? It doesn't really develop the subject in just 10 seconds or?
Yes. It's like 10 seconds. What can you do in 10 seconds? It's like, it's a very niche art form. Like maybe it would make sense for like, it makes sense for like very few things. I think for most people who, at least for someone like you who does like interviews where you explore ideas, it makes more sense to like just do the long form stuff. I know that a lot of people do long form content and then like take snippets for short form.
Yes, we're going to do that.
I think
we're going to cut. We're going to just put all the sound bites together. That's what Kika is going to do.
I think it's like the wise thing to do from like a marketing and distribution perspective. I don't think that's more what we need though, if that was my question. So.
Okay. So what do you think are some of the greatest challenges creators are facing right now? And also some of the greatest challenges maybe you're facing online, platforming the issues that you're platforming.
I think that the biggest challenge for a lot of people is to get off their phones and actually create something.
Okay.
I know you can't relate to that.
I can't relate. Okay, but you think that that's the biggest challenge?
Yes.
Okay. What's one key issue that's on your mind right now that more people in Sweden shouldn't be worried about?
Loneliness.
We're going to have a guest on the podcast talking about this, actually. I don't know if
you... to listen to it.
Yeah. Because I think especially amongst men, young men, we see a lot of that. Being an epidemic and a crisis. And a lot of people are talking about it, but maybe they're not.
In Stockholm, like where we have like some of the highest rates of single households.
Yes, over 40% of people live alone. But don't you think that was intentional at some point? People were like, we don't want to live with other people. It's more convenient and easy. We don't need to deal with the stress of flatmates and...
Yeah, but I think it's definitely one of the reasons we see in my estimation, what I believe is that one of the main reasons we see like an increasing level of mental health issues is because people are so lonely. Like, I don't think it makes sense to live your life alone. And a lot of people say that answer like in service that they don't have only one or even zero.
Oh yeah. Close friends. Yeah. Especially Swedish men. Yeah. I saw that statistic. It's crazy.
So I think that's one of the biggest problems we talk too little about.
All right. So final question, some advice for other people, other creators. If they're just starting out, what would you say to them? Maybe if they're stuck in those 9-to-5 jobs that we said we dread. Okay. We don't like those jobs, but, what would you say to them to maybe try to build a creative outlet? Any words of wisdom?
I would say just get started. Like there's this expression, start before you're ready. I think that's very important. Just get started because there's always a reason for waiting until, you finally have that other job that gives you more time or until you took that course or whatever. Just get started.
Okay. Perfect. You heard it here first for everybody. So if people want to follow what you do, what's the best way for them to do so? We're going to link all the links below, but
yeah, so I have a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/themarketexit.
I forgot to ask you this, but where did the name come from? Why the market exit? I know you had a little bit of a rebrand at some point, but...
Yeah, so there are several reasons for it. One is that you have to have a name, and most things are taken.
Okay.
So that limits the options very, very much.
Uh-huh.
But then there's this book called Exit, Voice and Loyalty. That is basically about... if you're in a situation that you're not happy with at work or in a country or in a relationship or whatever, you can either exit it or you can voice your objections. And the device to, guide you to one of the two is your level of loyalty. It's basically a model for explaining how people either leave their countries or companies or the relationships, or complain or try to do things better. So I like the concept of using an exit as a way of making societal change. And then I also like the concept of a market exit is also very interesting, because like basically in economics, a market exit is when a company finds it's more profitable or economic rational to just leave the market.
Yeah.
So I think that's it's a cool name with some ideas that resonates with what I've done in my life.
I wasn't expecting such a thoughtful answer. So you really thought it through. Like, it was super interesting. Like, the fact that you call it the market exit. I just thought you're like, I'm looking for a catchy name, and then that was it. I thought of it.
But that is the main thing, though. You have to start there and then like, okay, what out of these options that are catchy, what could be interesting, I guess.
All right. So thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast, Somewhere in Stockholm. And we are looking forward to bringing you more guests that you should know about here in the city of Stockholm. So if you would like to tune in next time, please make sure to subscribe and give it a like or write a comment. What was the thing that mostly resonated with you during this episode? Otherwise, I've been Frankie. And I'm your host, and hopefully we'll be coming back with more episodes in the near future. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hejdå!
Somewhere in Stockholm.
Yeah, I wanted to experience Scandinavia. I've never been. I just wanted to see how the northern life is up here. It was quite like I expected it. Hard to make a really deep connections with the locals, but here there's so many organized events for international students. You have to be really unsocial to not make any.
To not, how this experience has kind of shaped you.
I'm like a sponge. I want to like inhale everything, and I like lived now in a few cities in Germany. I traveled a little bit. I am now living here, and it's just amazing how you evolve through that.